The gaming future that Apple is hiding from you. Apple released the Mac Studio last week, the most powerful iteration of Apple's silicon so far. But what can it do beyond video editing that, unsurprisingly, video editors on YouTube like me tend to focus on? What does Apple have in store for the new Macs? Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell. For as long as I've had this channel, people have been asking about Apple making a games console. For many, they expected the Apple TV update that focused on gaming, and in a way that would make sense. Most game consoles are attached to the TV, just like the Apple Entertainment Hub, and it already does a lot of light duty with Apple Arcade and other select titles from the App Store. Apple is already a gaming behemoth, although nobody realises it, making more money from gaming than Microsoft, Sony and Nintendo combined from its cut of the App Store and in-app purchases. So will Apple just expand the Apple Arcade for more demanding games? I don't think so, and nor do I think we'll see a specific gaming hardware piece from Apple. One of the key points of Apple Arcade is that the games on the service have to be basically device agnostic, working across iPhone, iPad, Apple TV and Mac, as well as on any device capable of running the most recent software version. That means anything back to the iPhone 6S, the original iPhone SE, and most Macs as far back as 2015. As a result, I think it's unlikely that Apple Arcade will be where Apple's higher-end games live, and I think that Apple has way bigger ambitions too. I don't see Apple making a games console or system of any kind dedicated to gaming, be that an Apple TV or anything else. People have suggested something along the lines of a Nintendo Switch that could be portable or work with a larger fixed screen, but we already have that. It's called the iPad. AirPlay to larger displays is already a thing, although the reduction in latency would be well received, I think. Why won't Apple make dedicated gaming hardware? Because everything they do is multi-purpose. You don't buy a Mac for video editing and then have to use a different one if you want to edit a text document. Why would gaming be something different? But here's the bigger thing. I've been talking to future Apple Pro on Twitter about what else Apple could have in store on this side, and with the extra IP they've been adding to the chips, game streaming and general content production and streaming, it could well be the big focus. Almost all streamers only stream at 720p or 1080p, which is adequate for most people, but people are becoming more used to seeing 4K content in regular videos now and on TV, as well as on YouTube, but existing graphics cards struggle with this in a timely way. Enter the M1 Ultra, which right now it's tricky to tell how powerful it is. Different benchmarks show it surpassing the RTX 3090 or trailing it depending on the type of workload, but either way, it's in the same ballpark as the Nvidia GPUs. Apple's Pro, Max and Ultra chips also have the dedicated encode and decode engines for video, making this kind of thing an absolute breeze for them. Plus, they're basically silent, so when you're streaming there's no background noise from fans at all that you'll need to eliminate. Nice. Even when Luke Miani was halfway through his what seemed to be a pretty demanding hour of Cinebench, the air coming out of the back was still pretty cool, and the machine was basically silent. 4K streaming on the fly, also while running a high-end game, would be pretty effortless for Apple's M1 Pro and higher chips, given the separation of duties. Assuming that the games will actually be compatible, they'll be running on the GPUs, while the decode and encode blocks are doing all of the encoding. We know that Apple has done a pretty incredible job with their Rosetta 2 translation layers already, which take x86-based Mac apps and translate them to run on Apple Silicon, but would it be an impossible job to expand that to games that right now are exclusive to Windows? Valve is currently doing a pretty similar thing with Vulkan for the Steam Deck, allowing normally Windows exclusive games the ability to run on Steam Deck's Linux-based OS, so could Apple do something similar for macOS? Only time will tell. Apple's made big progress by investing into the Blender project, which now means that native support for metal GPUs is being implemented, which could also be laying the groundwork for Apple's mixed reality headsets, which could well be called Apple Reality when it launches in the coming years. And of course, beyond gaming, Apple's reality headsets will also be looking at doing things like 3D modelling and content production and consumption, just like the rest of their lineup. But will Apple's reality also have a gaming aspect to it? Almost certainly, but it won't just be a gaming system, and it'll offer a mix of features. Hell, if you want evidence of how multi-purpose these devices are, the Apple Watch is a fitness tracker, a notification deliverer, navigator and maps, an iPhone locator, camera remote and sleep tracker, and more. But let's be straight here, whether it actually beats the 3090 or not, the Apple Studio Ultra is an absolute beast, and certainly in that class of GPUs, while being tiny, using way less power, and operating basically in a silent box, while having access to more memory for the GPUs than anything else on the market. There have been a few videos that criticise the Mac Studio recently, and I think fairly. There are 2 SSD slots inside, but to have access to them you have to remove the power supply, which can be very dangerous, and it turns out pointless because even adding Apple's own genuine SSDs from another Mac Studio causes the system to not boot. Thanks to Luke Miani for testing this, and I guess also for the amount that we've mentioned him so far for sponsoring this video. Having popped into the Apple Store to fool around with Final Cut on a Studio, I have to say it's incredibly quick, and way faster than my Mini even in simple tasks, which is confusing because the single thread performance is exactly the same, but it's also true. You would think that these would be constrained as single core tasks, but I think the sheer volume of attached memory and how quickly it can be accessed is speeding that up. So Apple now has got to the point where they can legitimately have some of the fastest systems that money can buy. They're less expensive and more available than the competition, as the chip shortage still seems to be more of an issue for everyone else than Apple. They've got massive growth in their market share for the Mac, given how well the M1 performs for the price. Apple's next step is surely to push the existing iPhone users to switch to the Mac, and the best way to do that would surely be to lower the price of Mac hardware. When M2 arrives, we can only hope that the still excellent M1 chips stick around, with a price drop at the entry level, maybe giving us that $500 M1 Mac Mini and an $800 MacBook. We can only dream. But let me know your thoughts, and we'll be back with your iCave answers in the next show, so make sure you use that hashtag down in the comments with your questions. Thanks to the Patreons, and see you in the next one.